Welcome to Chris's Storytelling Corner. This is Christopher Moldong of Chris's Storytelling Corner. Today I'm going to do a movie review for Star Wars The Last Jedi. Next time I'll have a manga review for Skip Beat Volumes 5 and 6 and a reading of my fantasy short story, The Witch's Origin. You can check out my author's website at www.chrismoldon.com. You can buy my first novel, a fantasy adventure called The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom for $4.99. Also for $2.99, you can buy my short story collection, a collection of 10 short stories into horror, fantasy, and realistic fiction genres. Check out my Twitter page and author's Facebook page. Links to all these will be provided on the description. I'd also really like to hear from you guys, so leave any comments about this movie review. Also, if there are any movies that you want me to watch and or do a movie review on, make sure to leave that in the comment. Tell me that in the comments. Make sure to subscribe and share this channel as well. So, just to tell you, if you have not watched Star Wars The Last Jedi yet, do not go on. Okay, just spoiler alert. I'm going to spoil the whole movie. Okay? So do not go on from here if you don't want to receive any spoilers. With that said, the way that this works is I'll give a recap of the story and then give my thoughts on the movie itself. There's a lot to talk about. As far as initial thoughts go, this is kind of funny. As I watched the movie, I probably gave it like a B plus after watching it, maybe even an A minus. Reading reviews and stuff and looking back, I'd probably lower the score. So, I'd also recommend don't read reviews before watching this movie. That's another thing too. So I'll get into all that once I get into my thoughts on the movie. So um, let's get to the recap of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. So Resistance fighters, led by General Leia, evacuate their main base as a First Order fleet reaches them. Poe uh, does lead a counterattack that is successful but also very costly. He actually defies the orders of General Leia. So the Resistance vessels jump into hyperspace to escape, but the First Order gives a pursuit using a new type of tracking device. During an attack, Leia's son Kylo Ren destroys the Resistance support fighters, but hesitates to fire at the lead Resistance ship that once he senses his mother on board. So TIE fighters destroy the bridge of the ship though, and it kills many of the resistance leaders. But Leia saves herself using the Force. And she actually uses the Force in space. She can actually fly. She was able to fly through space using the Force. But when she comes back, she's incapacitated, and it leaves Vice Admiral Amelin Holdo in command. Poe totally disapproves of her really passive strategy. Um, so Poe, Finn, BB-8, and mechanic Rose Tico uh, make up this secret plan to disable the tracking device. Uh, the so having arrived in Octu with Chewbacca and R2-D2 aboard the Millennium Falcon, Rey meets Luke Skywalker. Um, Convinced that the Jedi's continued existence is not good for the balance in the Force because of his past failure in teaching Kylo Ren, um, Luke just pretty much refuses to teach Rey the ways of the Force. Even after learning of Han Solo's death, it's to the point where she gives him the lightsaber, like in the end of The Force Awakens, and he just tosses it. Like, that's it. But unknown to Luke, Rey and Kylo begin communicating with each other through like these visions, where they can actually see their surroundings too, or at least one side can. So, prompted by R2D2, though, Luke agrees to teach Rey, and Luke and Kylo Ren give Rey various accounts of the incident that got Kylo to the dark side. Um, with Luke confessing that he actually contemplated killing Kylo when he discovered his corruption by Supreme Leader Snoke. Um, Unable to convince Luke to join the Resistance, though, Rey leaves Octo without him to confront Kylo Ren. Um, while preparing to burn down Octo Jedi Temple and the Jedi Chronicles, Luke encounters Yoda's like Force ghost, who destroys the sanctuary and tells him that failure is the greatest teacher. So we get our cameo from Yoda. Uh, Vice Admiral Holdo reveals her plan to discreetly evacuate the remaining Resistance members using small transports. Um, believing, but Poe just believes that her actions are real cowardly and risky, so he instigates a mutiny. Finn, Rose, and BB-8 recruit the pirate and computer hacker DJ at a casino on Canto Bight, believing that he'll be able to help them in disabling the tracking device. So they infiltrate Snoke's ship. They're captured by Captain Phasma, though BB-8 does manage to escape. However, meanwhile, Rey lands on Snoke's ship and is seized by Kylo Ren, who takes her directly to Supreme Leader Snoke. So during a confrontation with Snoke, Rey tries to turn Kylo Ren to the side of the Resistance, or, well, not really even the Resistance, just the side of good and light. Snoke reveals that he controlled the mental connection between her and Kylo Ren as part of a plan to destroy Luke Skywalker. Ordered to kill Rey, Kylo Ren instead kills Snoke and works together with Rey to kill Snoke's guards. Then Kylo then invites Rey to rule the galaxy with him, but Rey refuses. Using the Force, they struggle for possession of Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber until it splits in two. Leia recovers and stuns Poe, shoots him with a gun, but it's put on stun, and allows the evacuation to happen. Holdo remains on the main ship to mislead Snoke's fleet, as all the others escape to an old Rebel Alliance base on the nearby planet Crate. But the thing is, DJ reveals the Resistance plans to the First Order, and the evacuation transports are targeted and shot down with a lot of heavy losses. But Holdo sacrifices herself by ramming Snoke's flagship at light speed to stop the barrage. Rey escapes into chaos while Kylo Ren declares himself new Supreme Leader, and BB-8 frees Rose and Finn, who escape after Finn defeats Captain Phasma, and join the survivors of the evacuation. When the First Order arrives, Poe, Finn, and Rose lead a charge with old speeders, but suffer some pretty heavy losses. Rey arrives in the Millennium Falcon and draws the TIE Fighters away, while Rose saves Finn from a suicide run against the main enemy cannon, which then blasts a hole in the Resistance fortress. Luke appears and confronts Kylo alone, giving the surviving Resistance fighters time to escape. Kylo Ren strikes Luke with his lightsaber, but learns that he has been fighting a Force projection and Luke is still an Octo. I'm probably pronouncing the name wrong, I'm sorry. Luke then tells Kylo that he will not be the last Jedi, as Rey clears a blocked tunnel behind the base so the remaining Resistance fighters can escape. Luke then dies and becomes one with the Force. He actually looks at the two sons. I think one of them's like of Tatooine or something to that nature. So the remaining resistance fighters escape aboard the Millennium Falcon, and Leia reassures everyone that the rebellion has all that is needed to rise again. On Canto Bight, one of the children that helped Finn and Rose escape grabs a broom with the Force and just gazes up into space. So, some overall thoughts on the movie. There's a lot of characters here, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot actually to criticize. What I was saying in the beginning was this: I didn't read any reviews on this movie. So, when I watched it, I came in and came out quite impressed. I was actually quite a fan of this movie. I thought it, in a sense, kind of developed its own identity in the first half, at least. You know, the second half was a little like Empire, where they're in this like place that is not snow but salt. Is kind of ridiculous in that sense. Um, but anyways, what ended up happening is I ended up reading a bunch of these like reviews, and and the thing is, they made me realize things that I didn't realize in the movie that like went against continuity and just didn't make sense or killed the plot. So it's like after reading the reviews, I'm like, oh yeah, like, huh. If I actually thought about this stuff watching the movie, I would have probably hated the movie, honestly. So I'll actually get to that stuff too. Some of the thoughts. One thing I really like about this movie was just one of the whole themes of conflict. Everyone has some sort of conflict going on. There's light and dark, obviously. Luke has inner conflict, and he like rejects the Force. Rey's kind of conflicted. She's actually kind of going like to light and dark. Kylo Ren is deeply conflicted. You know, he's kind of like going on the side of light and dark as well. Poe Daniel wants to do his own thing, and you know, doesn't understand like patience and thinking of things in a different way besides like attacking head first. Finn's kind of like, should I run? Should I not run? He's still kind of in that in between. So a lot of characters are in this like weird in between where it's like I can go one way or I can go another way, and it actually does, especially like Poe Dameron. It really goes full circle with him where it's like, hey, you know, at first it's like let's go bomb this, you know, this ship, and at the very end, Finn's like, I'm gonna kill myself to destroy the cannon, and Poe's like, no, we're not gonna do that. Retreat, you know. In the very beginning, Leia told Poe to retreat, and he didn't. Poe tells Finn to retreat at the very, you know, near the end of the movie, or closer to the end of the movie, and Finn doesn't. So I like that it went full circle in that sense. Um, the conflicts and whatnot. One thing I also really liked about this movie is that there were definitive consequences to the actions of the characters that I really liked. Um, you know, it's like if Poe, it also is like what they did and didn't do, which this is like the first head scratcher. It's like, why didn't Vice Admiral Emlyn Holdo just tell Poe about the plan? Like seriously, why, you know, because if she just told him the plan, then all those transport ships wouldn't have gotten destroyed. So that is one of those like things that's like, oh wait, I didn't really think about that, you know, the first time around until someone pointed it out to me. It's like, oh yeah, huh? Yeah, that's kind of stupid of the Vice Admiral, right? The other thing is, but speaking of consequences, though, if you look at the movie, it's just like, oh, Poe has this plan with Finn, Rose, and BB-8. They do their thing. They get betrayed by DJ. DJ tells them of the plan to that they're gonna go in the transport ships, and there's just these consequences to the actions, especially with Poe. Actually, Poe in the beginning, It's like, let's bomb these guys. And like, yeah, they bombed the ship and destroyed the ship, but it's like, it's like, yeah, we're heroes. We destroyed this major ship from, the First Order. Then it's like, yeah, all these people are dead because of your reckless actions. You're not really, they're not heroes now. They're just dead, you know? So I like that, that there are consequences to these people's actions. You know, Luke, there's consequences to turning on the lightsaber and just having that thought of, oh, hey, Kylo Ren might join the dark side. This is when he was still training him. And the consequence is like, hey, building falls on him, he joins the dark side. So it's like, I like that. There were some real consequences to the act, for the actions of these characters, and they weren't good. You know, they were actually quite bad. What happens? A lot of characters are young, inexperienced, and just need to learn. So that's another thing. Theme of this is this whole old versus new. So like Yoda destroys a tree, he destroys the Jedi Chronicles. The old dies so that the new can kind of do their thing, kill off the old, in with the new, type of deal. Luke dies, obviously, but now you have Rey, you have other Jedi. Luke's like the last of like the true Jedi. Like I would say like the true Jedi. So that was a really big thing here. It really this big like old versus new motif or idea um, that they went with. Some of the things that were criticized with this movie, there's a couple things here, actually. I didn't really realize it until I watched the movie. The humor was not to everyone's taste. It was kind of not a Star Wars humor that you're kind of expecting. Sometimes it was a bit juvenile at times. So the humor kind of goes both ways. Some parts were kind of funny, some parts were kind of just like, I don't know if him milking that beast and drinking the milk was actually like Luke doing that was supposed to be funny or just kind of weird. I don't know. Here, the other thing is that this movie, and it depends on your cup of tea and how you just view this. It's just that the social commentary. It's like, oh, these rich people that were selling weapons and whatnot to the bad guys, but also that the good guys are here and they're rich while these other kids are so poor. So, yeah, this like income inequality social commentary. You're starting to see a lot more social commentary, sprinkled into movies. I mean, it's always been there, but I think it's a little more blatant now than it's ever been. And it's really your cup of tea whether like you like that it's in there or if it's just like you can, maybe you don't want your politics, in your movies, in your entertainment. It's really is just whatever's your cup of tea, Um, One of the bigger things, though, is that this movie killed continuity a lot. It killed a lot of what The Force Awakens, and even going further back, brought to the table. For one, they killed Supreme Leader Snoke. You built up this enemy in The Force Awakens, and he dies halfway through the movie. That, I don't know, it was a cool moment, but throughout the whole movie, I was always thinking this. There's an episode 9, right? And so when they killed Snoke, I'm like, well, what are they going to do with episode 9? They kind of backed themselves in this corner because it seems like they put a lot of their eggs in this basket in a sense, where it's like, oh, we're gonna kill this guy now. We're gonna kill Luke in this episode. We're gonna do this. We're gonna make these big moves now. And it's like, well, what does that leave episode 9? And also the biggest problem with killing Snoke is, who is Snoke? Like, it was just kind of this weird thing. This is a guy that has this much power, can turn Kylo Ren to the dark side, can make this mental connection thing and whatnot. He has so much power. Who is this guy? Like, how did he get so powerful? What is his connection to the Sith? To, you know, the they pretty much the Sith. Like, he made did he make the First Order? Like, do I have to read the books to find out who Snoke is? I mean, it's just, you killed the guy before we actually got to know who the guy is. So you kind of killed that. The other thing they killed was the whole backstory with Rey. It's like, the whole thing with Rey's parents was such a big thing. It was like, oh, her parents, or maybe it's Obi-Wan Kenobi's kid, maybe it's Luke's kid, maybe it's Han's kid. Okay, you made this big thing. Oh no, they're a bunch of junkers, or whatever, scrappers or whatever, and they just left her there. I'm like, wait, that's it? You kind of built this up, she's looking at this ship going away, and, you know, that's it? And that in itself kills another thing of continuity of, like, I was under the impression that Jedi were born from other Jedi. So what happened here? You know, like, this is kind of weird. This is very new to me. Like, where are all these Jedi coming from? Like, you can just be born into being a Jedi. Like, that was just new to me. I was personally under the impression that you had to have, like, this is some sort of genetic thing. I guess not. So you in a sense killed continuity here, and maybe it's an old versus new thing there, but, like, once again, like, if you're looking for consistency, this kind of killed that consistency. You also built up Captain Phasma. It's like, who's Captain Phasma? And then she just dies by Finn. She's barely in it, and she looks so down on Finn, and it's just kind of like, we don't know anything about her. Is she some sort of rich woman? Is there something about her? Like, treats this guy like crap for no reason, really. It's just kind of weird if you think about it. The other thing is these new force powers. You know, this is new with the Force. I didn't know you can make holograms. I didn't know that you can have this weird mental connection thing where you can speak to others. When can you fly through space? Like, these are all new things that you're introducing here that aren't a part of the continuity. And maybe if you want to go with out with the old and with the new, okay. But then, it raises some questions of, like, hey, why didn't you use any of these powers in the past, in the old episodes then? So it doesn't, in that sense, it just doesn't make sense. And that's just not good. In a sense, like I said, I didn't think about these things when I actually watched the movie, so they didn't affect me so much as I was watching the movie. I wasn't questioning the movie so much. I did question a couple things, though. Obviously, I was just like, wow, they killed Snoke. What are they gonna do now? Like, what are they gonna do for episode 9? They really just put a lot of eggs in one basket. And also, the moves that they made here also trap Episode 9 in the corner. One of the biggest moves that from here is Kylo Ren. If you think about Kylo Ren, it's just like, okay, he's a new Supreme Leader. Well, here's a problem. He got defeated by Rey in The Force Awakens when Rey wasn't even a trained Jedi yet. The biggest problem with Kylo Ren is that he's not that powerful. Like, he just isn't. We have already shown him getting defeated by Rey, who's not fully trained. So he kind of lacks intimidation, first of all, and just like strength. You don't get the impression that he's the strongest guy there and that he's going to be the biggest problem. Which is why killing Snoke was so weird, because Snoke's flinging Rey around, you know? And Kylo Ren had to do something very sneaky in order to kill Snoke. But now it's like, at the same time, you don't get the impression that Kylo Ren's the strongest, you know, bad guy of the universe. He is strong, but like, we've already seen his limitations. We've already seen, kind of, in a sense, his ceiling. So they kind of just back themselves in the corner because of that. And I think that was quite problematic. I think Kylo Ren throughout this movie was good. You know who he reminded me of? Honestly, if you ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, he reminded me of Prince Zuko. I mean, he was just absolutely Prince Zuko. It just a guy that's torn between being good and bad, has power, can join the, he's all like, he's so determined to do what Snoke's doing, just like Zuko is so determined to please his father. But then when he actually goes and like tries to kill the protagonist, he just can't completely do it, and so there's a lot, Kylo Ren is a lot like Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you ever watch that cartoon, it's great. um, he's one of the more conflicted characters. If anything, he's probably one of the more interesting characters, because you get to know his backstory, you get to know his reasoning for what he's doing. He killed Han, which really sucks, actually. But out with the old and in with the new, right? And he killed his father, but he can't kill his mother, or he didn't choose to kill his mother. And he has this thing with Rey. I was gonna say this right now. I love story here going on, with Rey and Kylo Ren. I'm just like, oh wow, it just, they make an interesting pair. It's just kind of like, I, I I liked what they were doing with Rey and Kylo Ren. I like that mental connection. I like how they're both kind of like in that in between of just like, oh, am I gonna join the good or the bad? Is the darkness gonna overcome me, or is the light gonna overcome me? What's gonna happen? And they both kind of related to each other in that sense. So that was really good. I like that the Rey Kylo Ren stuff. I thought that was really good. Luke Skywalker here was. Let's start with his death, actually. Like, the question is, was it satisfying or not? Like, did it need to. Well, some questions. Did it even need to happen? I don't know. They could have let him live. It could have been like, ooh, that took a lot out of me. I need to rest. And it. I don't. This movie, once again, I can't help but feel that they're just going for moments more so than need. It's like, or at the expense of need, at the expense of necessity. Like, was it necessary for Luke Skywalker to die? Probably not. Like, it didn't make a difference if he did or didn't. I mean, he ended up dying. It kind of sucked. It was a good ending. It was nice where you were looking at the suns and whatnot. I thought it was well done the way they did it. It just once again is a matter of necessity. I just don't know if it needed to happen. Um, I mean, I get if you want to have Luke around in the ninth one, you know, he, he'd be pretty powerful. Speaking of power, I actually miss this. Back with killing some of the stuff from the Force Awakens, it's the idea of you destroyed that planet-sized base, but the First Order is like super strong still, and way stronger than the Resistance and the Republic. And in that sense, it doesn't actually make much sense. Like, it's like, how is the First Order so powerful? I mean, when I even watched, like, The Force Awakens, I was thinking that too. It's like, where do they get their funding from? Like, I don't understand. I mean, obviously, that's a case of um, suspending disbelief, though. You know, you just kind of have to accept it. But it's like you destroyed the big base. Like, aren't they weakened? Like, isn't the First Order weakened? How is it? How is it that they're so powerful, and how is it that the resistance is so weak? Um, that is a question for another day. If you're looking too far into it, and like I said, you gotta suspend your disbelief with some things, you know. But yeah, back with Luke. Um, so yeah, that his death is fine. I guess I don't really know if he didn't really get to teach Ray the lessons though. So it's kind of weird. Like three lessons or something, and it's like I guess she did two. Did she do three? Like she moved a rock. She did some other stuff, but um, yeah, like that was just like that was kind of left unsettled, you know. As far as his character, I mean, he's this recluse, you know. I mean, he's kind of this recluse, and then it's kind of like once again, I guess it's a you either suspend your disbelief or you don't. But the whole time I was kind of thinking of like, well, if Luke can't teach Ray, no one can teach Ray. Does he not understand that? Like, there are no other Jedi to teach Ray. So it's like, do you want Ray to go to Snoke or to Kylo Ren or something like that? Like, is that a thing? I don't really know. Like, so in that sense, it kind of makes you want to pull your hair out. It's like just help her already. It's like I understand that there's some level of struggle with like Luke Skywalker and what's going on with him, especially with like what happened with Kylo Ren or um, Ben Solo, if you want to call him that. But he eventually does decide to help her anyway. So it's like, I guess it's not a problem. It's like kind of splitting hairs there. As far as Ray goes, um, she's kind of she's kind of the same person going through a lot of different things. Here, I did like the conflict that was going on with her. I like when she went down the hole and she was like seeing her reflection and whatnot. I thought that was cool. Um, I mean, it was a bit, but like I said, it was a bit anticlimactic if you really think about it, about her parents, because it's just kind of like I want to see my parents, and it's just like, oh yeah, they're a bunch of these junkers or whatever, and they just left her. Uh, excuse me. So it's like, why? Like, what was the whole point of it? There's something to be said about Rey and Kylo Ren as well. Um, and especially if Kylo Ren, if they maybe should have changed it. You know, like I guess you can't change it now, but just some food for thought. Let Snoke live, but Rey and Kylo Ren join forces. And then in the next movie, you have your enemy in Snoke, and Kylo Ren and Rey together can maybe fight against him. Now it's Rey versus Kylo Ren. And that in itself is kind of problematic because the way that they did things by killing Supreme Leader Snoke, they kind of force fed this situation where Kylo Ren had to become the bad guy because there was no one else to do it. It wasn't. I mean, he had some justification like, oh, no more Jedi, no, no, nothing. I want nothing. And it's like, okay, once again, you kind of just put yourself in that corner because like they had a good thing going, especially when they're fighting Snoke's guards. That lightsaber scene was awesome. The whole fight scene was pretty awesome. You know, um, they make a good team. You know, but like it's just more or less forced upon Kylo Ren to be the villain because the last villain died. It's like okay, we need a villain for the ninth one. I guess they were kind of building Kylo Ren to be the villain, but like I said, that in itself has its own problems as well because he hasn't been presented as the strongest guy there and the strongest villain there. Snoke appeared to be the strongest villain. If you want to also talk about more villains, Captain Phasma, it's like she was just kind of there. She fights Finn, she dies, and it's just she just calls him, she insults him, looks down upon him, and it's like we knew nothing about her, and it's just kind of like if you knew a little more about her, see why she looks down on Finn so much. It would have been a little more impactful. Otherwise, she really wasn't that much different than like any other stormtrooper. We just knew she was powerful. We, but otherwise, she just kind of becomes a throwaway character now. Going with Finn, also, he, you know, his motivations for initially wanting to leave were actually fine. It's like, hey, I need to go on this escape pod to tell Rey not to come here because she's going to die. It's like, and she is probably the last hope for the galaxy. Fine. Hey, that works. I like, I can dig that. His pairing with Rose is kind of forced. Rose, I don't really know if Rose was necessary. I'm gonna say it right now. I mean, there's that cool thing at the end where she saves his life and whatnot. I heard an argument that's like they should just killed Finn. I like Finn personally. I think he's a fine character. I think he's a good character. Um, he has that conflict because he was a stormtrooper turned resistance, but like he still has a little fear of the First Order, but still cares for Rey. It's fine. He has a backstory. It's fine. I think it's fine that they kept him. His thing with Rose seems a little forced. His story about going to like the casino planet or whatever was really a side story that seeing how things ended up with DJ and everything, it was like it didn't necessarily need to happen, but it did happen, Um, and Rose, like I said, it's like I don't. I don't know if she brought much more to the table. That's the thing. It's just like she's just kind of put there. Um, not. I mean, her sister dies early on and whatnot, but otherwise, she's just kind of there. Kind of get her story, but like, I personally didn't feel that she was that strong of a character. We saw DJ the Code Breaker, you know. I thought that maybe he'd turn good, but he didn't, and that's kind of the end of for him, you know. Um, you know, General Leia, she got to fly in space. She's in the Force, and you know she's still around. It's cool that she got to see Luke, you know, before he died and whatnot. She's in the ninth one. I'm gonna assume she dies because seems to be what's happening with all the old Star Wars characters. So see what happens there. With Vice Admiral Holdo, I was worked. The friend that I watched this movie with also worked because I thought she was gonna commit treason. I thought she was just a coward, possibly even a bad guy, and that's why she's going with this plan. They totally worked me. And the whole plan was to go into transport ships because they couldn't be detected and to sacrifice the main ship. And it's like, oh. And it turned out at the very end that she was strong, courageous after all. Of course, I'll reiterate it right now. There was no reason not to tell Poe Dameron that about the plan. Really, there was no reason not to relay the plan to him. It was damaging to all parties not to tell him, and there was no reason to keep it secret from him. It's a really big plot point there, that or plot hole there, where it's just like, come on, you know. Poe uh, definitely was a character that's found some level of growth in the movie. Um, I like his character. I mean, he's supposed to be like kind of like the new Han Solo. If anything, he's not as like cool as Han Solo was, but this guy's Mr. Energy, Mr. Enthusiasm. I mean, he is just like, I'm on it, like, let's go. He's that guy. He's like, he's hype, he's kind of like hype personified in a sense. He's kind of like the new Han Solo, but he learns at the very end. It goes full circle with him, especially, and I like that actually quite a bit. Um, this movie though is kind of weird because it really is the tale. In my opinion, it's a tale of two movies. You can even think it's the tale of like three movies, but like there's everything leading up to the death of Snoke, and then there's after that. Like once they killed Snoke, I was like, oh, there's more. Oh, they're in the salt planet. Okay, and that's its own movie in a sense, and it's like, oh, this is weird. Like I said, there's just like tale. It really is a tale of two movies. I like the first half better than the second half. I mean, some things are really cool. Obviously, the stuff with Luke Skywalker is really cool. When he got blasted, turned out to be a hologram though. He just brushed it off. Um, and he told Kylo Ren like, "See you around, kid." That was pretty cool. Um, and in a sense, it just like the second half was about like Luke. You know, the first half was more about like Kylo Ren slash Rey with that side story with Finn and Rose. But like, um, I didn't mind it the first time I watched it, but it just really caught me off guard. It's like, oh, okay, the movie's not over yet. Um, I get where's it gonna end? You know what I mean? Like, where is this going to end then? Um, they just killed Snoke. They killed the big bad guy, you know? New bad guys around, but there's still episode 9. So, like, they're not gonna kill Kylo Ren, so what's gonna happen? Um, and I guess they also left something else for episode 9, and that's that new Jedi are going to appear. There's that, like, stable boy. He grabbed a broom using the Force, and he looks up in the sky. He gets a resistance signal. It looks like there's some new Jedi coming along. I don't know how I feel about that, but it makes sense. This movie's called The Last Jedi, and the last Jedi is Luke Skywalker per se. Technically, it's Leia, I guess. She's got Jedi powers too. But like Luke's the last like true Jedi. I'm assuming that's why they call it the Last Jedi because yeah, he's the last. At least by name too. We don't say like Leia's truly a Jedi. She has the Force powers, but he's not really like a Jedi that you think of. That you associate other Jedi with. And like Rey has the power of the Force, but I guess she's a Jedi. I guess, but not in that like traditional sense, I suppose, is where they're going. But yeah, this new Jedi with Episode 9. I assume that more people got the message from the Resistance. More people joined the Resistance. They're gonna fight against Kylo Ren. I think J.J. Abrams is gonna have his hand in directing it, if I'm not mistaken. This one was Ryan Johnson. Um, I don't really know. Like I said, like they, I do feel that this movie did back themselves in a corner. Just like where can you go from here to make it strong? And I mean, I have some faith that they'll be able to do it. Um, they're gonna have new enemies. I mean, the resistance right now is like 20 people. So they're really small. I guess they have to gather new resistance members and whatnot. Ray, I don't know if she has training to do. Obviously, she's got to have one last battle with Kylo Ren. I suppose there's a possible love story there too. Finn kind of has this thing with for Ray. It looks like. Otherwise, yeah, it's really like up in the air right now. What's gonna happen as far as episode 9 goes. So that's all for today. If you like this, don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment to this channel. Thank you for listening to this movie review. Next time, I'll have a manga review for Skip Beat Volumes 5 and 6, and a reading of my fantasy short story, The Witch's Origin. Thank you, and until next time.